Welcome to our channel. Today, we pause to remember a life that touched hearts and left a lasting impact. We'll explore their journey, the challenges they faced, and the moments that made them unforgettable. Join us as we honor their story, celebrate their legacy, and reflect on the memories that will continue to inspire and live on in the hearts of those who knew them. The music world grew quieter this week. On February 16, 2026, tragic news was confirmed. Billy Steinberg passed away at the age of 75. For many, his name may not have stood under bright stage lights. But his words did. And those words shaped a generation. In the 1980s, pop music found a new heartbeat. Alongside his longtime writing partner Tom Kelly, Steinberg helped create songs that would echo across decades. Their lyrics were simple, honest, and filled with feeling. They understood love, longing, strength, and heartbreak. One of their most famous works was Like a Virgin, performed by Madonna. The song became a cultural moment. It changed the sound of pop music and helped launch a global career. But behind the bold performance was a songwriter who knew how to capture vulnerability in a few careful lines. Soon after came True Colors by Cyndi Lauper. The song carried a softer message. It spoke about seeing someone's true self and loving them anyway. Its lyrics became a comfort to many who felt unseen. Over time, it grew into an anthem of hope. In 1987, Whitney Houston brought power and passion to So Emotional. The words once again proved Steinberg's range. He could write tenderness. He could write strength. He could write fire. Then came Eternal Flame by the Bangles. It was a quiet ballad. Gentle. Romantic. Timeless. The song reached #1 and remains one of the most loved love songs of its era. Over the years, Steinberg's writing appeared in many other hits. I Drove All Night, I Touch Myself, and I'll Stand By You each carried his emotional fingerprint. Different voices. Different moods. But always honest. Friends say he never chased fame. He chased feeling. In a past interview, Steinberg once shared, "A song works when it tells the truth. Even if it's simple, it has to be real." That belief guided his career for more than 4 decades. Following news of his passing, tributes poured in across social media. Cyndi Lauper wrote, "Billy had a gift for finding the heart of a song. I'm forever grateful for the music we shared." Her words reflected a deep respect, not only for a collaborator, but for a friend. A statement released by his family described him as a loving father, a loyal friend, and a man who believed deeply in the power of music. They asked that his songs continue to be played, saying, "That is where he felt most alive." Those who worked with him often spoke about his quiet nature. He preferred the studio over the spotlight. He valued the craft. He listened closely. And he revised carefully, searching for just the right phrase. In an industry often driven by trends, Steinberg focused on emotion. His lyrics did not try to impress. They tried to connect. Music critics have noted that many of his songs share a common thread. They speak to human strength. To believing in oneself. To holding on to love even when it feels fragile. That message reached millions. For younger listeners discovering these songs today, the words still feel fresh. That is the mark of lasting art. It does not belong to one year. It belongs to every year. As the news spread, radio stations revisited his catalog. Old melodies filled the air once more. Listeners sang along, some remembering high school dances, first loves, long car rides. His music became the soundtrack to personal memories. And that may be his greatest achievement. Billy Steinberg did not stand on stage under flashing lights. But his words stood there for him. They carried voices. they carried dreams. They carried feelings that people sometimes struggled to say themselves. At 75, he leaves behind more than chart-topping hits. He leaves behind comfort, confidence, and connection. His songs will continue to play at weddings and on road trips. They will be streamed by new generations who may not know his name at first. But they will know his words. And they will feel them. In the quiet after the headlines fade, his melodies remain. Billy Steinberg's voice was never loud. But it was lasting. And in every chorus that rises, in every lyric that speaks of love and strength, his legacy will live on, steady, sincere, and forever in tune with the hearts he helped shape. The cathedral stood quiet in the early morning light. Rows of empty seats. A still organ. Silence where music once soared. On February 11, 2026, tragic news was confirmed. Helmuth Rilling had passed away at the age of 92. For decades, he had been one of the world's most devoted guardians of sacred music. His life was guided by faith, discipline, and a deep love for the works of Johann Sebastian Bach. Rilling was not simply a conductor. He was a teacher. A builder of choirs. A keeper of tradition. Born in Germany in 1933, he grew up during difficult times. Music became his refuge. As a young man, he studied church music and developed a strong connection to Bach's compositions. The structure. The devotion. The quiet strength inside every note. It shaped him. In 1954, he founded the Gächinger Kantorei. What began as a small choir soon grew into one of the most respected vocal ensembles in Europe. Under his direction, singers were trained with care and precision. Rehearsals were focused. Expectations were high. But so was the sense of purpose. He believed sacred music was not only to be performed. It was to be understood. In 1970, he helped establish the Oregon Bach Festival in the United States. It became a bridge between continents. Young musicians traveled there to learn, to perform, and to study Bach's works under Rilling's steady hand. A former student once said, "Maestro Rilling did not just teach us how to conduct. He taught us how to listen." Those words reflected his quiet influence in rehearsal rooms around the world. Rilling dedicated much of his career to recording the complete sacred cantatas of Bach. It was a historic achievement. Each performance was shaped by careful study and deep respect. He approached every score with humility. Colleagues described him as calm, focused, and deeply prepared. He did not raise his voice often. He did not need to. His authority came from knowledge and conviction. After news of his passing, tributes arrived from across the music world. A statement from the Oregon Bach Festival read, "Helmuth Rilling gave us more than concerts. He gave us a standard of excellence and a spirit of devotion that will guide us for generations." Churches in Germany rang their bells in his memory. Choirs shared photos of past performances. Many spoke of his kindness behind the scenes. One longtime singer shared online, "He demanded our best, but he believed in us. When he lifted his hands, we trusted him completely." It was a simple memory. But it carried weight. Through decades of work, Rilling trained countless conductors and musicians. His students now lead choirs in Europe, America, and beyond. His influence spreads quietly, like harmony passed from voice to voice. He believed that Bach's music was timeless because it spoke to the human soul. Joy, sorrow, hope, faith. Those emotions do not fade with time. Even in his later years, he remained active. He continued teaching and offering guidance. Age slowed his steps, but not his dedication. For many, attending one of his performances felt like entering a sacred space. There was focus. There was balance. There was reverence. The music was never rushed. It was allowed to breathe. His family described him as a man of deep faith and quiet humor. In a brief statement, they said, he lived with discipline, but he loved with warmth. Music was his calling, but family was his heart. At 92, his life tells a story of commitment. Not to fame. Not to applause. But to purpose. Helmuth Rilling understood that sacred music carries more than melody. It carries memory. It carries belief. It carries something larger than the performer. Today, choirs around the world continue to rehearse the works he cherished. Conductors lift their hands in the same steady motion he once used. Young singers open scores he studied for a lifetime. And somewhere, in the echo of a Bach chorale, his influence remains. The man may be gone. The podium may stand empty. But the music continues. And in every careful note sung with devotion and discipline, Helmuth Rilling's legacy lives on, gentle, enduring, and forever faithful to the harmony he protected. The stadium lights once glowed brightly over a quiet mound. The crowd held its breath. One final pitch. One final out. On February 12, 2026, tragic news was confirmed. Elroy Face had passed away at the age of 97. For many baseball fans, he was more than a pitcher. He was a pioneer. A steady hand in the late innings. A man who changed the game without ever demanding the spotlight. Born in Pennsylvania in 1928, Face grew up loving baseball. Like many young boys of his time, he practiced for hours on dusty fields, dreaming of the major leagues. His path was not easy. He served in the military before fully pursuing his baseball career. But his determination never faded. When he joined the Pittsburgh Pirates, few could have predicted how important he would become. In an era when starting pitchers were expected to finish games, the role of the relief pitcher was often overlooked. Face changed that. With his unique forkball and calm presence, he became one of the first dominant closers in modern baseball. He entered games when pressure was at its highest. Runners on base. Slim leads. Tension in the air. And more often than not, he delivered. In 1959, he recorded an incredible 18-1 season as a relief pitcher. It was a record that stood for decades. His performance proved that relief pitching was not a secondary role. It was essential. Fans began calling him the Baron of the Bullpen. The nickname stuck. It reflected both respect and admiration. A former teammate once said, "When Elroy came in, we felt safe." He didn't panic. He just went to work. Those simple words captured the trust he inspired inside the clubhouse. Face played a key role in helping the Pirates win the 1960 World Series. That championship remains one of the most memorable in baseball history. Though others may have taken center stage, his steady work behind the scenes helped carry the team through tight games. He never sought fame. He focused on execution. Over nearly 2 decades in Major League Baseball, Face built a career defined by reliability. He finished with 193 saves, a remarkable number for his era. But beyond statistics, he helped shape how managers viewed the bullpen. His success changed strategy across the league. After news of his passing spread, tributes poured in from former players and fans. The Pittsburgh Pirates released a statement saying, "Elroy Face was a cornerstone of our history." His calm strength and competitive spirit defined an era of Pirates baseball. On social media, one fan wrote, "He wasn't flashy. He was steady." And steady wins games. That quiet praise echoed across generations. Off the field, Face was known for his humility. He often returned to Pittsburgh for team events and community gatherings. He signed autographs with patience. He shared stories with young players. He never forgot where he came from. Family members described him as devoted and kind. In a brief message, they said, he loved the game, but he loved his family even more. We are proud of the legacy he leaves behind. Baseball has changed over the years. Bullpens are now filled with specialists. Closers are celebrated stars. But many historians trace that evolution back to pioneers like Elroy Face. He proved that the final innings mattered just as much as the first. At 97 years old, his life stands as a reminder that greatness does not always shout. Sometimes, it stands quietly on the mound. It grips the ball. It throws with confidence. Today, when a closer jogs in from the bullpen to protect a narrow lead, there is a piece of Elroy Face in that moment. In the calm focus. In the trust of teammates. In the strategy shaped by his success. The crowd may rise. The music may play. But the roots of that role run deep. Elroy Face helped build that foundation. And long after the final pitch has been thrown, his legacy will remain, steady, disciplined, and forever part of the game he helped transform. The newsroom lights were softer than usual. Monitors glowed quietly. Papers rested untouched on desks. On February 4, 2026, tragic news was confirmed. Wes Sargentson had passed away at the age of 82 after battling esophageal cancer. For decades, he had been a steady and trusted voice in Atlanta journalism. To many viewers, he felt less like a reporter and more like a neighbor. Sargentson built his career on something simple: listening. Through his beloved segment, West Side Stories, he focused on people who were often overlooked. Teachers. Volunteers. Small business owners. Everyday heroes. He believed their stories mattered just as much as any headline. In a fast-moving media world, his approach felt different. He spoke calmly. He asked careful questions. He gave people time to share their truth. A former colleague once said, "Wes never chased drama. He chased meaning." That quiet dedication became his signature. Born in the early 1940s, Sargentson grew up during a time of change in America. He saw how communities struggled and how they healed. Those early experiences shaped his view of journalism. He believed the role of a reporter was not only to inform, but to connect. When he joined Atlanta television, viewers quickly noticed his warmth. He did not rush through stories. He let moments breathe. He treated every interview with respect. Over the years, West Side Stories became more than a segment. It became a weekly reminder that kindness still existed. Families gathered to watch. Letters poured in from viewers who felt seen and heard. One local teacher once wrote to him, saying, "You made our small school feel important. My students still talk about the day you visited." It was a simple message, but it reflected the reach of his work. Sargentson covered major events during his long career. Storms. Elections. Community struggles. Yet he always returned to the human side of the story. He believed facts were important, but compassion gave them meaning. When news of his passing spread, tributes filled social media. A statement from his former station read, "Wes Sargentson represented the very best of local journalism. He led with integrity, humility, and heart." Atlanta's mayor also shared a message, writing, "Wes told the stories that built this city's spirit. He reminded us who we are." Those words carried weight in a community he had served for decades. Behind the camera, Sargentson was known as patient and thoughtful. Younger reporters often sought his advice. He encouraged them to slow down, to listen closely, to remember that every person has dignity. A longtime producer shared, he would say, "If you respect people, they will open up to you." And he was right. His calm wisdom shaped the next generation of journalists. Even while facing illness, Sargentson remained grateful. In one of his final public messages, he thanked viewers for their support. He said, "This city has given me more than I could ever give back." It was a reflection of his humility. At 82, his passing leaves a space that cannot easily be filled. Newsrooms continue their work. Cameras still roll. But the steady presence that defined West Side Stories now belongs to memory. His legacy is not measured in awards, though he received many. It is measured in trust. In the quiet thank you notes. In the smiles of people who felt recognized because of him. Today, Atlanta remembers not just a journalist, but a voice that carried kindness into living rooms for decades. In neighborhoods across the city, people still recall the way he stood with them, microphone in hand, listening without judgment. That image remains clear. Wes Sargentson believed stories could bring people closer. He believed light could be found even in difficult times. And as the city he loved moves forward, his spirit lives on in every reporter who chooses empathy over noise. The cameras may fade. The segment may close. But the voice that once told Atlanta's stories with warmth and integrity will never truly be silent.